Yeah, I mean, it's just such a weird time, right? We're seeing Donald Trump with his crazy tweets. We're seeing just this weird anxiety globally about what's going to happen to the world. We're all seeming to get angrier and meaner and less sophisticated and less thoughtful about our politics. And at a certain point, you kind of have to ask yourself, what am I doing about it? And so I decided I would throw my hat in the ring. I mean, that's the short version. The long version's long, right? It's 1,000 conversations along the way from people who are encouraging you to do it, making you second guess whether you should do it because of the commitments it'll take, in terms of time and the pressure on your family. But at the end of the day, I just think it's way too important a moment. People need to stand up. And it's not about one person standing up. It's about all of us standing up. So day to day, we tend to conflate democracy with voting, right? We say, well, I live in a democracy, so I voted. But to live in a democracy means a lot more than just voting. It means informing yourself. It means participating. And I think it's on all of us to say, based on what we're able to do at the time and based on our own interests in anything going on, but it's on all of us to go out and to join campaigns, participate in the democratic processes, talk to our friends and neighbors about it, get involved with Elections Canada if we're not so interested in being partisan on a particular campaign. But democracy only flourishes when we care about it. And that's more than voting. That's active participation. We are so lucky in this country. We take it for granted, and it's so hackneyed to say, but it is so true. This is a very special thing. We govern ourselves. We get together and we decide who is going to represent us, and 4 years later we decide who gets to represent us again. And that's incredible. And we should take it seriously. And I think on this campaign we're seeing the people of Calgary Confederation do take it seriously. Talk to your kids about voting in real ways, right? Don't let them get away with saying, well, you're a liberal, so I'm a liberal, or you're a conservative, so I'm a conservative. Have actual conversations, challenge their views, encourage them to be thoughtful about their vote, and expose them to the mechanisms of voting. Get them out there themselves and show them what it's like when you wait in line and they point you to the poll and you go behind that cardboard box and you mark an X and drop it in a box. And it's really important that people have a democratic fluency. And I think we take it for granted, especially those of us who've been voting for decades at this point, right? It's just, we think, sure, it's easy. Well, everything's easy once you've done it, but your kids haven't necessarily done it yet. So involve them in the process, talk to them, make them the citizens you want to be, better than the citizen you are, frankly. That's what I always try to do with my kids. Yeah, I mean, you start by starting. You just get out there and give it a shot. And I know nobody wants to look foolish or like they don't understand, but your vote matters as much as anybody else's vote, and your participation matters as much as anybody else's participation. So never let somebody make you feel bad about how you're participating in an election, right? The secret is participation. So whether this is your 30th election or first, come on out, get out there. Vote, volunteer, just be part of the democratic process. Talk to your friends about democracy. Talk to your friends about what various things mean to you with the different parties, right? What would childcare mean to you? What would a tax cut mean to you on the other side? Just talk. Donald Trump was the biggest issue. America and tariffs, that was the biggest issue. 51st state talk, that was the biggest. I'm putting them all in one bundle, but that was the biggest issue. But there's also a lot of concern about rising populism. There's a lot of anxiety about affordability. There are people who are just trying to get by and finding it's a little tougher, and they're a little unsettled about the path we're on. So in some ways, I think this is exactly what an election should be. We're talking about big issues. We're not talking about like small micro-targeted tax cuts or making sure that you can buy Zyn pouches at 7-Eleven, right? We're talking about the big important things for our nation. And I think it's great that Calgarians are thinking about those things in a big way. Yeah, so I've door knocked a lot in my life, but this was the first time I door knocked as a candidate, of course. And I didn't quite know what it was going to be like. Like, I guess I wasn't even paying attention when I was door knocking with candidates before, maybe. But at the start, I would go in, I would have this really long script. I would basically talk for a minute unbroken before they could even say a word. I thought, I got to get that key message in, doing all those things as comms people do. And that was pretty suboptimal, right? What I found out is you really need to treat it as a conversation. So, I ended up ultimately getting to a place where I'd say, I'm Corey Hogan. I'm going around to introduce myself. I want to see if you have any thoughts about the election or if you've given any thought to who you might support. And then you let them take the conversation from there. And if they say, I'm undecided, then you say, oh, why are you undecided? Who are you undecided between? Let them lead the conversation. And so I guess one of my preconceived notions was that the people would just want to follow my script, right? And as a candidate, I had to learn I had to follow their script. Yeah, I mean, politics has become so ugly, and you just post anything on X and you're going to get just the worst responses. It's just terrible. I don't know about any of that. But I think because of that, volunteers come, and a new volunteer will often say something like, oh, do you have anything I can do around the office, right? Or they might even think that they're better off on the phone because they're not physically in front of somebody. And I always tell them, we all always tell them, oh, door knocking is the best and easiest thing you can do on a campaign, right? Just a good walk out there with people, everyone's in a good mood. And no one ever believes us, right? You've always got to find a way to drag them out. You've got to be like, oh, don't worry, you don't have to talk at the doors. The other person will do the talking. We try to make it as easy as possible. But door knocking gives me hope for humanity, frankly, because when you're actually face to face with people, you're actually talking to them about the issues. They are so much more pleasant than they are online, even if they disagree with you, right? The worst you usually get door knocking is, no, I'm a conservative, door closed. But most conservatives even will engage with you and chat with you and be like, hey, I'm sorry, I appreciate you're out here doing your thing for the democratic process. I'm not with you. And if you want to, you can usually even engage them in conversation. And it's just a nice reminder. I know there's a lot of arguments right now. Is online real life? Is online fake? Are we just fake in person? Are we real online? I think we're real in person. And I think people are generally pretty good. And I hope that the world can get back to a little bit more of an in-person friendly place. I mean, people have real, legitimate frustrations, and I think 18 to 34-year-olds more than basically anyone because of, I think, the climate crisis, because of affordable housing becoming so difficult, because it's so difficult to break into job markets, and we need to work on that. But two things I need to say. One is, be very careful about people selling you easy solutions. And there's a lot of conservatives selling some very easy solutions that are ultimately, I think, going to be pretty self-defeating. Like, you cannot just other people and say, I'm going to get everything they've got, which is a lot of what is happening right now, right? Like, the problem is new Canadians coming to this country, or the problem is all of those people are really entitled and they've already got it. Like, that's okay. Like, I understand the appeal of that, but that's a dangerous road to walk, right? And I also think people just need to be mindful that these are long-term problems that are not really tied to any one political party. Like, we talk about housing. The price of housing has just really diverted from incomes since 2000 across, both the conservatives and the liberals. And I mean, shame on both of us for not being better on that particular file. But now we get to choose how we move forward from here, right? And so I think one of the things we need to do as we talk about combating populism is we need to have longer form conversations with people. We need to not just say, oh, the algorithm says they're a conservative, so we move on. But we need to actually spend the time to have thoughtful conversations, go out, reach out to other people, not just cancel people, because they're not on your side. I'm not talking about like the truly terrible things. I'm saying just disagreeing with you. Sometimes people are saying, well, you're not with us then, so you can burn. We got to move that psychology away. And I also think we've got to talk a bit about social media down the road and what it's doing to us in the echo chambers that are being generated around here. And at the very least, we need to think, how long are we really going to hold something against someone? Because we now live in a world that can't forget. And if we live in a world that can't forget, we better learn how to forgive. Yeah, I mean, politicians are great at promises, right? It's all in the follow through. And I think voters also have very high expectations, and fair enough, the politicians set them on them by making grand promises. we got to deliver on what we said. There's no question about that. And I think we're going to. I think Mark Carney's got a very good plan for that. But there's always going to be curveballs coming at you from, I don't know, the United States. Maybe Donald Trump will tweet something wild tonight. You just never know. Maybe he'll congratulate me on winning the election. That'd be kind of weird. And who knows? But I think that we also need to talk about this in terms of values and principles and how we approach governing. And so I hope after 4 years as well, people say, that was a pretty principled government. That was a government that tried to do the things that were not just the letters of the platform, but were the spirit of the platform as well. Yeah, I think the Americans, we've always joked, are in terms of politics, we're just them on time delay. 8 years later, we have the same. So they get Obama in 2008, we do Justin Trudeau in 2015, that kind of thing, right? And it's time to break that habit. Like, we are benefiting from seeing them as the cautionary tale. We are seeing where the path of populism takes them. Look at the markets any given day, right? Look at what's happening to people's rights. Look at how fundamental freedoms are being eroded in the United States. And this is the consequence, right? This is the end of the road that populism takes you on. And while I understand the frustrations people have, and we certainly need to do a better job of addressing people's frustrations in meaningful ways, this snake oil salesman, carnival barker, your enemies are my enemies, and I'm going to do what I can so you get yours and they get screwed. It's got to end, right? We have to pull back from the brink of madness. And as Canadians, we have an opportunity. We're seeing what's happening in the United States. We don't need to do that, right? We have a choice. And I think what's really heartening about this election is it does seem Canadians are very mindful of that choice. Yeah, if people feel that voting a different way is going to lose them a community, you have to show them it gains them another community, right? And ultimately, we just need to be less set against each other too. Because if that is the feeling that's out there, that's the sentiment that's out there, also think about your culpability in that, right? And how you might be able to engage with people to make them feel more comfortable and their orbit feel more comfortable about getting involved on your side. The most important thing Canadians can do is remember politics is not sports, right? You can't always support one party. You can't always oppose another party. And if you do that, if you're always wearing your jersey, we are going to find ourselves in the exact same place the Americans are. We need to be thoughtful about this. If you find that you agree with 100% of what your political party said, of what I've said, you're not a member of a democracy, you're a member of a cult. Right? We need to treat democracy seriously, and we need to remember that good ideas can come from anywhere. These people are our friends and neighbors. They're not our enemies. They're not our foes. And we need to treat each other as citizens, not as rivals. So the volunteers on the campaign has been crazy. I've never worked on a campaign like this, and I've worked on a lot of campaigns. We had hundreds of volunteers. This is only day 28 of the Corey Hogan campaign, and we have over 400 volunteers who are out there knocking doors, making phone calls, helping in the office, putting things together such as signs. It's been nuts, right? And it's been a good nuts. I can't believe the passion of this community and the enthusiasm for change. And while I'd love to believe it was all about me, the reality is I've just kind of become a vehicle for this change that was out there that people wanted. And my hand is gonna be broken writing all the thank you cards I'm gonna have to write after this. It's been incredible. There's nothing like this in my life. I've never seen or been part of something like this, and I'm just thrilled. Every day I've met a dozen new people who have come to volunteer their time, and make sure that this is going to be a campaign that we're all proud of in Calgary Confederation. It's so cliche to say. I guess I'm struggling because it's such a cliche thing to say that volunteers are everything on a campaign, but they are. The difference between this campaign, where I've never seen so many people around on a local campaign, and the average campaign is extraordinary. And the commitment, the passion, the people going knocking door to door. I would love to believe it was all for me. I'm not that delusional. I'm not that egotistical. it's for Canada, right? And Mark Carney has really presented a vision of Canada too, but that difference is everything. You think about the fact that we're on day 28 of a campaign. It's election day, and it's day 28. And there's a whole organization, a big organization that's out there in force every day. We'd go door to door, we'd be knocking doors. We only ran into the Conservatives a couple of times, overlapping communities, but we'd be out there with 18, 20 people. They'd be out there with 4. If we pull this off tonight, it's going to be because everybody gave everything they've got to get it done. So 338 Canada puts out these projections every day of, who's going to win in Calgary Confederation, right? Is Corey Hogan above Jeremy Nixon? Is Jeremy Nixon above Corey Hogan? It's been super close the whole time. But what those things fail to capture is what's happening on the ground. And if there's going to be a surprise tonight, I think the surprise is going to be just how strong this campaign is, because a projection made from 4 provinces over can't capture that volunteer enthusiasm, can't capture the fact that not only are people going out door knocking, but they're talking to their neighbors about it, they're tweeting about it, they're getting out there and they're making sure that the message is carried. And it's everything, right? We talk a lot about ground game on campaigns. And if an election is otherwise tied, it comes down to ground game, and nobody's got a better ground game than this campaign. These volunteers have been incredible. Well, in the past, I've said, hey, maybe air war has taken over everything. What I probably failed to appreciate until I was on a campaign like this is just what building that community does and what it means just to be seen in the community and the numbers that we've been seen in the community. And yeah, of course, there's always the marginal benefit of identifying someone and then getting them to the poll. That's the whole reason we do all of this during the campaign. But I think the benefit's been bigger than that. I think it's being out there. I think it's people seeing that there's a sign down the street, that there's a team down the street, and that this can be done. Like, we can do this, and that there can be liberal representation in Calgary Confederation. This wouldn't happen without the organization that just sprung up out of nowhere. It took 4 days. We went from it being just me talking to Stephen Carter about a press release that was going to go out on a Wednesday to this big machine in 4 days. I remember showing up to the office on like the Friday after the Tuesday announcement, and it was an office. Like, there were signs on the wall, there were posters, there were maps, there were people doing things, and I can't believe how everybody's come together like that. Paul Wells has this rule of politics, which is that the candidate having the most fun is the one who's going to win. And I mean, if that's true, we are for sure going to win, because it's not just that there's a lot of people out. Everyone's in such a great mood. They're so excited. They're so happy. They're bringing other people out. And there's this weird... So on campaigns, something normally happens. You sign up for a door knocking shift, and if you're an organizer, you're sitting there and you're looking and you see, 8 people are going to door knock tonight, right? And you've got to almost adjust down. You got to say, well, some of them are not going to show up. They're going to find excuses not to come, or they're going to get busy in life. This is the only campaign I've ever worked on where more people show up to a door knocking shift than have signed up, like regularly, routinely, every single one. You'll have 12 volunteers set up for a shift in Renfrew, and you'll get there and there'll be 16. And all of a sudden we're having to call Quinton and say, cut us more turfs. We've got too many volunteers. We're going to get through this list in like an hour and a half. And I have never seen that before. This infectious enthusiasm for this campaign is just incredible. The biggest takeaway I take from this election is that we can do things, and we need less time to do them than we think we do. I mean, this is an organization of hundreds of people that has talked to tens of thousands of voters, and we built it in days. We executed it in weeks. I think often in our day-to-day life, we give ourselves long horizons to do things. We think, well, I'll do that over the next 6 months, or I'll do that over the next 2 years. You can just do. And I think elections are pretty amazing for that. Campaigns are pretty amazing for that. It was such a good reminder and reinforcer for me that, like, if you want to get out there and do something, it might take less time than you think. If I'm lucky enough to be elected, I think that my hopes are we have a stronger, more independent Canada with alliances across the globe, a bit of a diversified set of alliances, if you will, not so reliant on the United States. I'm hoping that we have a strong economy that's put a lot of people to work. I'm hoping that housing is more affordable, that people can find the type of housing they want and have the transit options that are available to them. But it feels funny, like I'm saying hope, but these are the things I'm going to work for. And it's just, that's part of the weird, there's a bit of a mentality shift that has to come that I haven't quite figured out here, if I'm going to be honest. But this is what I want to spend the next 4 years doing, working for these things for you. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. This isn't a campaign without the volunteers, and this is one of the biggest campaigns I've ever seen, regardless of level, like I'm talking even against central campaigns, right? And it's because of the volunteer enthusiasm. You have the ability to change this place, and I think you are going to change this place. Win or lose tonight, I think you've changed this place, because nobody thinks of Calgary Confederation as a conservative bastion anymore. This is a real fight. My name is Corey Hogan, and I'm your Liberal Member of Parliament for Calgary Confederation.